Okay, so from MVP to scalable product, I guess in order to get a bit of context, maybe we should start by, introducing ourselves. Maybe tell us a little bit about what Scentmate is and Firmenich is, and what this industry is.
So let's start by one thing. When we think about fragrances, everybody thinks about fine fragrance, the thing we put on our skin, and it smells nice. Fragrances is literally everywhere. Shampoos, candles, bottles, fine fragrances. It's literally in every single part of our lives. And the passionate thing about it is that it's an industry that has hundreds of years. And for hundreds of years, pretty much the creation process has been done in a very, very analogical manner, very craft manner. And this worked because the customers were like very large customers. So Procter & Gamble, L'Oreal, Unilever, all these big brands were comfortable with very long development cycles. But now, there's one game changer in the world, and it's digitalization. The barriers of entry for entrepreneurs, indie brands, manufacturers are just going down. So we've seen a lot of new brands into the market. Now the problem is that I belong to a company named Firmenich, which is one of the oldest companies in the world. We have a Nobel Prize for chemistry in the 30s. Super interesting company. And we said, we need to get into these companies and accompany these entrepreneurs very early. How do we do that? And the problem is that all these noses, these perfumers, it takes about 10 to 15 years to actually train a perfumer and to make it work. So how do we do this and service these companies, these indie brands, efficiently? So we said, we need to create something that brings this quality, craftsmanship, agility that they need, like speed and everything, without giving up on any of these elements, and at the same time leveraging digitalization. And that's pretty much the setting.
Yeah, and like any big company, right? You want to try out your ideas before that, right? So I think this would be a good follow-up to that, because when you're trying to validate a new business model, like in this case, or a new channel, like in this case, you want to make sure that you turn that market risk, and you validate that it's going to work. And this is where the MVP comes in. A lot of people have misconceptions, let's say, about what an MVP is. They think of an MVP as a set of features that you need to put out, when in reality it's a strategy to mitigate risk, right? To turn that market risk of whether someone will be okay with buying these fragrances from not a person, but maybe an online consultant, so to speak. No, we will talk more about the AI part of this. Into can we build something that actually performs a task? Can we try it out, and then based on that make an informed decision on whether to continue moving forward or not, right?
I think you touched on so many points that are very important. MVP, minimum viable product. There is a point where you need to go beyond a product. You need to become a new business model. And that is a very hard transition to make. So initially, when we start discussing this, my company, Firmenich, is we are 10,000 people. So it's quite a big corporation. And when I say these theses, everybody was very supportive. We had to break a lot of rules to get there. Everybody was agreeing, and we tested that. We did 600 interviews with different archetypes and different segments. We validated many different features, refined them, very agile development, everything was super fast, great. But, and I don't want to be cocky, but that is easy. The hardest part is to actually make that transition from an MVP to the new business model.
Yeah, because the challenges in an MVP are different than when you're trying to scale, right? And for an MVP, you're trying to get things done quickly, validate, close that feedback loop, get data, validate your hypothesis. But when you have that problem solution fit or product market fit, and you want to start ramping up, then everything you built, you may have sacrificed or made some trade-offs, in order to get that speed. But that's not what's going to get you to the next step. No, you need to evolve that. In this case, you need to go from a monolithic, product with maybe a bit of technical debt and so on, to something that can actually scale at the speed at which you want this to grow as well, right? Because you're putting an investment behind it, and this is where the chemistry has come in, no? So turning that initial MVP into something that can scale and evolving it and modernizing it, which is what Codurance specializes in. That.
And it's super tough because during the MVP phase, you go very, very fast. Everything seems like easy. You make decisions that, like, for example, let's hard code these, let's go with monolithic here, and it moves. And then once you start doing the actual, okay, we validated all the hypotheses, let's launch into a business, you have shareholders, different stakeholders, and they expect you to deliver at the same speed. And then you realize one thing, that actually, to become a successful digital business model, the platform is secondary. And I don't want to scare someone here, but it really is. The single most important factor of success for our success is culture, is the people. And I'm not bullshitting here, like, for us, culture is such an important part of the company. It's the philosophy. It drives everything behind. And once you have the culture, then you have people that you're capable to attract the right talent. You share a common vision, and it's very powerful. And then they say, hey, you know what? We believe in this story. We believe we can scale. The word is about scalability. But in order to do that, we need to set up the right foundations. And that's a very tough, I would say, 3 to 6 months of realization, is that a lot of the decisions that during the MVP were like very lightly done, very fast, for a good reason, it becomes tough because you need to pause a little bit, find the right partners, and then establish the basics, the foundations.
You mentioned culture, and I think that's quite key, because if you have the right culture, and in this case, we're talking about that experimentation mindset, that quality, automation, etc. All of these things that will allow you to move really fast and catch all the mistakes before they go live, especially once you're already, selling and you're established. Let's say you have clients that are depending on you, and that growth, both from the team side of things, especially if you want to grow fast, is difficult to tackle. No, it's difficult to find the people that match the culture, have the technical skills, and at the same time, make all of that work together, because it's a complex domain as well.
It's really funny because, I mean, the stakeholders and shareholders, they came to us and said, well, I mean, you need to hire a lot of people now. And obviously, I mean, we are a fragrance company. We are not Google, we're not Facebook. We are a company that we've been there for 127 years. So we need to attract the right talent. And at the same time, it's all about this vision that you want to build. And at the same time, it's also about a very, very tough competition out there to get the right talent, because there's a lot of tension in the market. So if you have the right culture, if you have something that is exciting, and you have a very daring vision, the talent comes within. And when we started from an MVP, we were 8 people. Now we have a team of 50 people, of which 30 people are engineers, I mean, full stack and everything, and digital product management. That transition was extremely hard. And one of the things I recommend for companies trying to do that is not to do everything, try to hire everyone on your own. You need to find the right partners and have a very good balance between in-house and outsourcing. And when we decided to go for this balance, we don't consider, a big mistake is to consider the person working with you, the outsource, as a supplier. It cannot be a supplier. It needs to be a partner. And fun thing, I can tell you this, I don't know who are my employees and who are the supplier, the partner that we have. For me, it's part of the same thing.
Well, I think that's basically alignment, no? Alignment in values and in ways of seeing things. And you were mentioning one other thing, which was the collaboration, right? And with scale, and especially in something like this, you need to have people from marketing, sales, the design, technology, etc., all working together to get something done really quickly. But you guys are sort of like a startup inside a corporate, no, and that has its challenge, its challenges on its own, right? Because all is fun, no, and while you're still at the beginning, but once things, need to professionalize and they need to really, scale up.
Well, I have a fun story here. It's when we started hiring the team and everyone. One of the questions by my lead product manager came, Alfonso, are we going to have Macs in the office? I'm like, sure, of course you're going to have Mac, whatever you need, no problem. And then I said, how do I order Macs? And my company were like, no, not happening. We only have computers, PCs. I'm like, what? Yes, but I have an iPad. Yeah, but Macs is a different thing. So, and this cannot get out of here. What I did is I took my credit card, I bought 10 Macs with my money. I said, but we have a problem because I already paid for it. I need to get reimbursed. And then you push the company into going your way. And that's the only thing, it's the only way to do it. It's very interesting because you need to protect, you need to shield this culture. You need to create a differentiated culture from a corporation because it's not the same values, it's not the same know-how, it's not the same business. But at the same time, you need to learn how to work within. And the best way to break the rules is to master them. And that's what I did. I read every single rule of the corporate playbook to navigate them as good as I could.
Now, there's another aspect to this platform, which is quite innovative as well, which is the machine learning or AI aspect of it, and how that is tied to all the data and information of years doing this work, and from the corporate side of things, and how to make sure that with that experimentation and that with that agility and so on, you're not endangering that IP or that knowledge. And this is where things like security and the operational models and all of these things that we've put in place to make sure that they're secured come in place. So this is an aspect as well that when you're starting, it's not something that you're looking at, but when you want to scale, security becomes a problem as well. It's something that needs to be addressed at the root. You can't just find it out later on or fix it later on because the damage may be already done. No?
I mean, so many different topics, but first of all, security is a must for all of us. How do we operate? We have a DevSecOps that is very integrated. Actually, it's from our partner Codurance, and it is fully integrated into our culture. We do continuous releases, so the corporation works more on a periodic releases. We do continuously. So what we have agreed is like we have a framework that ensures the corporate security standards, but within different processes, and everybody's comfortable. Now what's happening is at a corporate level, they are liking it so much that they are now kind of
starting
like saying,
to adopt some of those.
Yes, it's like, why don't we do that ourselves, So then you start sparkling change within. So that's in terms of security. Artificial intelligence, super important topic. So we don't sell SKUs. That's a huge difference. Each formula, it's a combination of like multiple ingredients and different proportions. So you have billions of combinations that are possible. Now, our company, we have been studying the market and the consumer for the last 50 years. So we know what are the olfactive preferences of a young German person living in Berlin versus a young Spaniard living in Malaga. Because there are. In Malaga, for example, you will be more sensitive to the orange flower, the neroli notes. And in Germany, for example, you will have all the sensibilities more like woody notes and things like that. So all that, it's an incredible puzzle. And when you try to attract digital talent, and especially data scientists, our problem is like Disney World for them. They love it because it's really literal billions of combinations, but you also have all these data about consumer preferences, liking, drivers of liker. So you put all these into a cocktail, you shake it, and you have an amazing endless possibilities that is already transforming the industry.
And there's a cultural thing there, a cultural aspect as well, because the people with the knowledge to build those models may not necessarily have the skill set required in order to build enterprise software, right? So a lot of the times you end up with, code that gets you what you want, right? Like it will suggest what you want, but it's not necessarily ready for production. And this is the part where, the work between data engineers, the data scientists, and the rest of the engineering team becomes key, right? Because you need to work both on getting the thing right, but also making it scale, et cetera, making it easy to maintain, all these things that, again, it's a different set of skills from what you normally get.
Because a perfumer, as I say, I think was said in the introduction, there are more astronauts than perfumers in the world. That's how scarce and incredible this talent is. So you need to align the full stack engineers, developers, digital product manager, data scientists, data engineers, with also the sales roles and the perfumers. And that's why for us in the hiring criteria, we look a lot at the technical skill set, of course, but one of the red lines is culture, and we do cultural interviews. And if we spot that someone is extremely good from a technical aspect, but it's not a good cultural fit, we decide not hiring, So it needs to work like it's a perfect machine. And you say one word, and I keep saying to everyone, scalability. Going from an MVP to a business, it's super complex because the set of problems, you go from a mindset of validation to a mindset of, okay, that's validated, now I need to build, I need to deliver. And it changes even the way the organization, it changes the numbers, mentality. You need to start thinking about OKRs. I mean, it's a complete environment. And if you miss one point, you're missing the whole thing.
Okay, so is there anything else maybe you want to, from the lessons learned, that we want to go over? Or maybe we could open up to questions if people want to ask something.
Lessons learned. I mean, I've learned so many things. First of all, in the corporate world, Macs are not liked. And in the digital space, a lot of people love Macs. So it's super important now. But lessons learned. Basically, surround yourself with the right people is the most important part. When finding a partner, don't look for a brand. Look for skill set. Look for culture. As we found Codurance, I'm so happy because basically out of this 50 people team, we have 0 resignations in 1 year and a half. I mean, people are passionate about what we do, and I know that the market is poaching them constantly and everything, but it really behaves like a family. Second thing is purpose. Whenever you do something, do it with purpose. Like, look really for something that you wake up every day. And we have it in our, it's a very fun story because we find this, what is our mission, and it's in the wall. And we found, after different iterations with the management, with the CEO, with so many people, we found this wishy-washy one paragraph mission. And at the end, we had to take one pen, and I had to scratch it like that, because you will also find that you need to connect with the entire culture.
Yeah, with the mission. Yeah.
And we wrote, we wake up every morning to make the life of our clients easy. It's super stupid and simple, but I love it because that's what we do every morning. If you are an entrepreneur and you are creating your own candle brands, it's hell. They need to think about what's happening in China in terms of supply chain. They need to think about how to get finance. They need to think about packaging. They need to think about how they promote SEO, SMM. They need to think about so many things that the fragrance part, for them, it takes months. Actually, if you go to a typical fragrance house and you say, I want something that smells like lavender, you will get some examples within 1 month, 1.5 months. And imagine that, then you smell the lavender and say, yeah, but this has nothing to do with what I wanted. So we took all these and we say, put that aside, focus on one thing, making the life of our clients easier. And we transformed the industry because today it takes literally hours to get the sample. And we don't stop at fragrances because the mission doesn't stop at fragrances. It also goes beyond. These people, they need financing, they need so many, we discovered through all these interviews that for product lifecycle management, they were using Gyro, which is a software PLM. I was like, what? Or they were using Apparel PLM systems. And I'm like, they need so much help. And our aim is to make their life easier. So we start with fragrances, but we want to go way beyond that.
The opportunities are there, no? So it's just about taking them. Good. So should we open?
Sorry, just before the questions, one thing. Today, it's our birthday. We made officially one year with the clients. Today. It's a very special day.
Congratulations then. So should we open to questions if there are any? Good. Okay. You okay? Yeah.
Hello. Thanks for the conference. It was very interesting. I really like the breaking the rules thing. How do you choose or build the culture?
It's a very, very good question. First of all, I mean, I've never built before a digital company, so it's about listening to people. It's also common sense. It's also thinking more of a flat organization where people can collaborate and thinking there's no age, gender, and believe in it. So then when you start having this kind of openness and people feel they can participate, then you start seeing this culture being generated. And then is to choose people that have done that. So in our case, we rely on Codurance, who said, we ask, oh, look, we are trying to set up this culture. We have this project. What are the best practices today to implement? And maybe Jose, you can.
Yeah, and for me, there's a couple of aspects. One is you need to understand what that culture looks like, and I'm not talking about values. I'm talking about what kind of behaviors do you want to see in people. Yeah, and once you have that clear, then the way to transfer that or to multiply that is through leaders in the organization. So find the people who lead and empower them to basically make that happen or show and display those behaviors. And then if you really want to go beyond, you then need to modify the systems within the organization to make sure that they reinforce that type of behavior. And I'm talking about things like hiring, for instance, right? Like if you're looking for people who are eager to learn, etc., like that's the kind of culture that you want, then you need to look for those things when you're hiring as well. And you need to look for those things when you are, rewarding people for the work that they're doing and so on. So it's a combination of having a clear vision of what you want that culture to be or manifest, and engaging the leaders within the organization in order to make that happen, or make it visible.
And don't pick and choose. Whenever you take something, don't pick and choose. So I like the OKRs, but I only like this thing. This one I will keep that. No, I mean, embrace the philosophy all the way in. Because the moment you start making a small sacrifice here and there, it's gone.
And I would say, again, going back to experimentation and learning, it's like the culture is also something that changes with time, right? Because the needs of the organization change. So be open to also change your culture and evolve it to make it better, right? So that will be it.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Hi, thank you.
Hi.
Speaking of people, how do you deal with temporary compromise? Like people now have different, options. They have different interests. How do you deal with that temporary interest that people have?
Sorry, are you referring to interest in what? In technology? Like someone preferring Java over...
Well, no, I'm speaking in general. You see, you have a company, and now you hire people, you even train them, and then you have to be ready that they might leave soon after the training. How do you deal with that when you're building a team?
Okay, you know that joke, like if we train them, they will leave, but if we don't train them and they stay, we have a problem. So you need to train them anyway, right? The idea here is, why are people staying in your organization? And for me, yes, money is very important, yeah, and benefits and all of these things, but those are less important in today's, situation than they were, 3 years ago before the pandemic. Yeah. So you need to create an environment where people can connect with the vision and what it is that they're doing. So that purpose needs to be there, and it shouldn't be lip service. It should be something that is there and people can feel. You need to work on developing and creating that progression, or that the professional development that people can have. And if that is there, why would they leave? If they're getting everything that they need, why would they leave? If they leave for money, well, you can't compete in money in many cases, right? Especially if you're a startup, the money may be going somewhere else that's needed more, right? So I would say that, like, try to create an environment where money and benefits is not just the only thing that matters, but that's a second tier kind of priority for people. They're really engaged with what they're doing. They like the people that they're doing it with, and they are growing as people and as professionals. So if you manage, by the way, this is very difficult to do. I'm not saying it's right, but there are many things that we do, like academies would be part of the hiring process. You work on the social aspect. Well, you can say a lot more about this as well.
I mean, I've never come to a point yet, because we are 1 year old, where someone is actually leaving us. But first of all, we have different trainings, but we also have one budget that goes for whatever training it's called. So if your interest is cooking, for what you develop an interest in cooking, you have a little bit of budget to actually train yourself as a chef. And I think that's real diversity. Now, we are selling scents and everything. If you really want to become a professional chef, then I cannot say anything, but
maybe your calling is somewhere else, right?
Yeah.
But it is about that, right? And there's another thing, like that diversity that you're talking about. People should be able to bring that to work as well, right? And that should be part of their personality and who they are, and able to express that and share it with others in the organization, right? So.
And one thing we believe is reach is so we have digital teams, but we also have, remember, the classical sales, the perfumers, which is a very interesting world. And what we do is we do a lot of cross trainings where people can also see other options, and now we have
tours of the facilities, and like for people to really understand how everything else works, not just their little area, no?
And if I have one salesperson that says, hey, Alfonso, I want to learn how to code, I'll be like, that's fantastic, let's go for it. So it's about being open, invest on your people, trust your people, and then obviously we are free people, so you cannot control all the variables, but at least create an environment where people are happy, stable, they can realize themselves, they can be themselves. We don't have any dress codes. Be super open. And I can tell you one thing, if you follow these simple common sense rules, you will have the most engaged people behind, and that's beautiful.
Okay, we're out of time. Thank you all for your time and for being here. And if you want to continue talking, we'll be right outside.
Thank you very much.